All right, let's talk about the Diamondbacks this weekend series and talk about how they're actually looking at this season with a sense of urgency because the D-backs in this series against the Colorado Rockies were able to get their offense back on track because the D-backs in 3 games were able to put up 24 runs. Now, Sunday's series finale wasn't too pretty as the Rockies scored 12 runs to the D-backs 4, with Ryan Nelson struggling once again. 6 earned runs over 4 innings pitched. And Ryan Nelson hasn't looked too pretty over his last 3 starts. If you count today's start, it has not been a pretty stretch of games for him because Ryan Nelson, his recent start before today, he had 5 innings pitched, 11 hits, and 4 earned runs against the Kansas City Royals. Then on 420 against the San Diego Padres, 5 innings, 5 earned runs. So the last 3 starts from him, 5 earned runs, 4 earned runs, 6 earned runs. Not good, Ryan Nelson. He's been getting hit a lot. That fastball velo has looked pretty good during those 3 starts, but it's just sitting too much in the middle of the plate and doesn't seem to really be fooling anyone. Doesn't seem to be deceptive, which is the most important thing. So these opposing batters have been teeing off against Ryan Nelson recently, and that happened more on Sunday. But the D-backs offense was able to get back on track, and for the first 2 games of the series, just looked phenomenal. I mean, in game one, the offense did show up kind of late because they put up 3 runs in the seventh and then 5 runs in the ninth inning. That's how they were able to beat the Rockies 9-1. Like they got 8 runs from the seventh inning on, which is kind of hard, but they were still able to get 10 hits in that game, 4 walks to 4 strikeouts, something that we're always tracking because the D-backs, I think we said on a podcast like Wednesday or Thursday how the D-backs have only had like 1 or 2 games the whole season where they had more walks and strikeouts. Well, in game one, at least it was even, 4 walks or 4 strikeouts. Merrill Kelly looked great in game one, 6 innings, 1 earned run. Really strong stuff from him. In game two, Tommy Henry was all right. He pitched into the six at least. He's an innings eater, which you do like only 75 pitches as he pitched into the six, but still 7 hits, 4 earned runs in it. He probably couldn't stay in that game any longer than what he did do, but the offense bailed him out and were there for the run support because sometimes for Merrill Kelly, we don't see a lot of run support. So it was nice to see game one. He got a lot of run support, even though it came like after he left the game. And then game two, a lot of run support for Tommy Henry. Perdomo was phenomenal. Christian Walker was phenomenal. And Perdomo, I mean, the no batting gloves Perdomo has looked insane this year. And he's just been on another level for the D-backs. I mean, his slash line currently 383, 456, 617. Perdomo has been on insane mission the whole year. So I like to see the D-backs offense getting on track. They were able to take care of business against the lowly Colorado Rockies team. The D-backs are 3 games above 500. They're still in first place in the NL West, which you like to see. And I want to talk about how the D-backs are looking at this season with a sense of urgency because seeing them call up Dominic Fletcher to me really signified how they're not taking this season lightly. They talked about complacency. They're not trying to be complacent this season. They see how much talent they have on the field. And one reason Dominic Fletcher got called up is because Corbin Carroll got hurt. He's probably not going on the injured list, but a little bit more outfield depth for this D-backs team. But two, it's because, like with Madison Bumgarner, DFAing him because you knew he just wasn't good for this rotation. He wasn't helping out your ball club. And you saw that this D-backs team can maybe compete for a wild card spot. So you're like, why are we going to give up a rotation spot to a Madison Bumgarner? Well, you call up Dominic Fletcher because you already optioned Jake McCarthy, who has been struggling this year. Alec Thomas hasn't lit the world on fire. Why not call up Dominic Fletcher with a 300 plus batting average, over 400 OBP, over 500 slugging? The man has crushed it in Reno this year. If he can get hot with the D-backs, he already had a double in his season debut. If he can get hot with the D-backs and sustain that level of offensive competitiveness, if he could basically be this year's Jake McCarthy, like I think the D-backs will ride him and say, you know what? Corbin Carroll's our number one. Maybe Dominic Fletcher is with how he's playing, our second best outfielder. And then it's a toss up between, are we putting Thomas in that third day, Gurriel, or are we going to call up Jake McCarthy ever again? Like, I think the D backs are ultimately going to ride whoever the hot hands are. I think Corbin Carroll's a lock. And then if Dominic Fletcher is playing well and playing good, like I think him and Lourdes Gurriel might be the first two up in that outfield outside of Alec Thomas, just because I think the D backs are going to play the best guys and play the guys who are playing the best. And Alec Thomas is always going to have a spot because of his defense. But if Dominic Fletcher plays solid defense and his bat is just way better than Thomas's, like I wouldn't be surprised if the D backs gave Fletcher a lot of runway for the rest of the season. And I don't mind building that competitive environment for this D-backs team because I think that's so interesting right now. I think it's the same thing with Ryan Nelson because the D-backs haven't announced their next starter yet for Wednesday's game against the Texas Rangers after Zach Gallen start going in game 2. They haven't announced Wednesday's starter, and some people are speculating. We don't know for sure, but maybe it could be Brandon Pfaadt. And if it is Brandon Pfaadt, like that would be super exciting. We'd be sounding the alarm on the Lockdown Diamondbacks podcast. Like he's a tantalizing talent. Had one of the best minor league seasons we've ever seen last season. He's been really good for the Reno Aces this year. Like everyone would want to see Brandon Pfaadt on the major league level. And that would not bode well for some of the other rookies we've seen in the rotation this year, right? Because if Brandon Pfaadt gets called into the rotation, you inject him. Maybe Zach Davies comes back. Like you go Gallen, you go Merrill Kelly. Davies has been solid this year. If Brandon Pfaadt is good, like we just talked about how Ryan Nelson's been struggling. Like, do you keep Ryan Nelson in as that fifth starter? Do you maybe move him to the bullpen, keep Tommy Henry in as your fifth starter? What do you do with Dre Jameson? Like, I think the D-backs are once again like treating, if they do call up a Brandon Pfaadt, like they're going to ride the hot hand and ride whoever is the best player right now. And so it's like everyone on this D-backs team, if you're a young player, like you can't rest on your laurels, which I like so much. The D-backs are building this competitive environment where it's like no matter what position you are, like if you're the McCarthy's and Thomases of the world, like yeah, if you don't keep up your production, like you got guys like Dominic Fletcher right behind you, waiting in the wings. After that, Drew Jones not far behind. For the Rojas's and Perdomos, like if you don't play well, the Jordan Lawlers and the Blaze Alexanders are not far behind. And even a guy, if you look at the rotation, all these rookies, well, you still got guys like Brandon Pfaadt on the horizon. Even a guy like Blake Walston might not be far behind too. So I love the D-backs team. I love the depth that this D-backs team have because they do have all this young talent just waiting in the minor leagues in case any of their major league players don't work out. You still have so much depth and other guys that you can convince yourself have potential, have a ceiling, and could be above average major leaguer. So I love the competitive environment that the D-backs are building, and I love the D-backs playing with a sense of urgency, letting you know if you're a young guy, we're going to give you opportunity, but at a certain point, once the leash runs up, if you're not playing well, we're going to rotate you out for somebody else and just try to ride the hot hand, ride whoever is playing the best, and take that momentum and see how far it carries you. See how many games you can win, doing that model because you do want to have a level of consistency with the guys you throw out there. But once you find out who your best players are, I think the D-backs are going to ride those guys until the very end. So very excited to see how the rest of this season plays out. Very excited to see how it plays out with guys like Alec Thomas, the Fletchers, the Jake McCarthy's of the world, guys in the rotation with the Fats and Nelsons, like all these young guys, everybody's on watch. And I absolutely love the competitive environment that the D-backs are building.